Hey everyone! I wanted to talk with you about what I'm doing and what I'm using. The canvas that I'm using is a watercolor canvas panel. I usually don't use these with watercolor, but decided to try it out. I did make this a mixed media piece because the background and foreground is done in acrylic. I like these watercolor canvases because they are very smooth and I can get more detail on them than the canvases that are for acrylic and oil mediums. Starting at the beginning, I drew out the fox on a separate sheet of paper that I measured out, and once I got the drawing how I wanted it to look, I did a scribble transfer technique. I used chalk pastel on the back of the drawing, lined it up where I wanted it on the panel, and traced over the drawing, which transferred the drawing over to the canvas without having eraser marks. I used chalk pastel because it will kind of melt into the background once I start to add water. The pencils I use in the beginning are Prismacolor watercolor pencils. It's just a small set of 12. I use the orange, yellow, red, brown, and just a touch of black. Once I got the pencil on where I felt it was thick enough, I came in with a small brush because I didn't want to add too much water and activated the pencils. I also mapped out where the colors would need to be darker with the pencils so that way I wouldn't have to make that decision when I brought out my tin of watercolors. I made sure the pencil layer was completely dry before adding on more color, and when working from the pans, I like a creamier consistency than the actual watery watercolor. It covered the previous layer a little more than what I wanted it to, but the colors mix well together, giving it a more uniform look. I know you would normally start with a background, but I knew the watercolor wouldn't go over the acrylic, but the acrylic would have no problem going over the watercolors, so I started with them and painted around the fox when it came to adding in the back and foreground. Later in the video, you will see me paint the eye of the fox, and then I decided I didn't like it and fixed it off camera because my head kept getting in the way, and so I just took the camera out of the equation so that way I could get it to look the way that I wanted it to. I also changed the background color, deciding to take away most of the colors I had originally added. So you'll see me paint part of it, and then because I changed my mind, I cut a lot of that part of the video out and then let you see the process of me painting it just Payne's gray and white. The snow the fox is sitting in has a light blue hue to it because I didn't want it to be plain white. And I added some more white to certain areas to show a brighter reflection where I thought that the moon would have been catching it. I also painted some acrylics on the fox to add details because I don't plan ahead enough to keep the whites of the canvas showing through to use it as the highlights. The chest of the fox is white, but I tinted it with a splash of yellow because it will still look white when it's compared to the background and the snow. But adding that color allows me to add a bright white highlight to the top, and it gives it more color variation. And then at the end, you'll see me put a few brown wisps of grass near the fox, and then when adding the falling snow, I used dotting tools to get the large and small flakes. I placed them as random as I could in the background, and then I placed some on top of the fox so it looks like snow was also falling in front of it. With that being said, I will catch up with you at the end of the video. Enjoy the process. Here is the end result. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and also let me know if there's an animal you would like to see me draw.